For the past decade, I've indulged in a peculiar hobby of mine, staying at haunted bed and breakfasts. Most of the time, the tales of supernatural encounters and eerie happenings turn out to be greatly exaggerated or entirely fabricated. However, every once in a while, I stumble upon some truly extraordinary experiences. One such occasion took place in Key West, Florida, at a charming bed and breakfast called Marrero's. It was approximately 3 a.m. The entire house was enveloped in darkness. All the lights had been switched off in the quaint 13-bedroom establishment. As I settled into bed, I began to hear things. Naturally, in an old building, one expects the occasional creak or groan. But on this particular night, I distinctly heard footsteps, hushed conversations, and breathing. Some of the sounds may have been carried in from the bustling street outside. However, the breathing, that was different. In the stillness of the room, I could discern an irregular wheezing, akin to the labored gasps of an elderly individual whose lungs have been ravaged by disease. Still, I brushed it off as the settling of the aging wooden structure due to the cooling temperatures of the night. By now, it was around 4 a.m., but I was wide awake. Suddenly, an immense weight pressed down upon my chest. It felt as if someone was sitting directly on my ribcage. I couldn't sit up, I couldn't move, I couldn't breathe. Out of nowhere, a whispering voice caressed my ear. It was unmistakably feminine, softly uttering a word in a tone that suggested lips pressed against the side of my face. Then, the pressure on my chest vanished. I jolted upright in bed. I switched on the lights, checking if my companion was awake and had witnessed the strange occurrence. The next morning, I recounted the events to my girlfriend, who, due to her deep slumber, had missed the entire episode. In an attempt to detect any signs of paranormal activity, I placed my keys in a circle on a plain sheet of white paper before retiring for the next night. I was disappointed the next morning. They remained undisturbed. And that word, the word that was whispered into my ear, I couldn't identify it as anything in English. I'm puzzled to this day. Since that incident, I have returned to Marrero several times in the hopes of gathering further evidence of supernatural activity. Unfortunately, luck has yet to be on my side. Nevertheless, I remain determined to continue my quest, eager for any future encounters that may shed light on the mysterious occurrences within those old walls. When I was 13 years old, I had a ghostly encounter in my previous home. My bedroom was located on the lower level of our raised ranch house, while the rest of my family's bedrooms were upstairs. From the very first night I slept in that room, I was overcome with an unsettling feeling, like someone or something was always watching me. Strange occurrences would happen every now and then, like hearing footsteps, random knocks, or seeing objects mysteriously moving on their own. After 2 months in the house, something eerie took place. I went to bed as usual, turning off the lights and closing my bedroom door. At 2 a.m., I suddenly woke up. Every hair on my body stood on end. To my astonishment, the light outside my door was on. My bedroom door was wide open. I shifted my gaze and began to hear footsteps emanating from the hallway in front of my room. Fear overwhelmed me as I stared at my open doorway, the light casting an eerie glow, while the sound of footsteps echoed in the stillness. Then, I heard two distinct jiggles on the locked door further down the hall. I was certain of the sound since I used that door every day. It led to the garage, which I knew was closed, meaning the jiggling came from the inside. I felt completely paralyzed. After a brief pause, the footsteps resumed. Around 5 or 6 of them traversed back from the door to the area in front of my room. There was an undeniable presence that I could sense. Like any 13-year-old would do, I slowly turned towards the wall, closed my eyes tightly, and forced myself to fall back asleep. Eventually, I moved out of the house, but I can honestly say that I've never encountered anything as chilling and horrifying since that night. It was 5 years later that I discovered the grandfather of the family who lived in our old house before us had passed away in the very same downstairs bedroom that I had occupied. My friend James rented a house immediately after the previous tenant passed away. The circumstances were unusual because James's wife, who works as a paramedic, responded to the previous tenant's 911 call when he suffered the heart attack. Unfortunately, despite their efforts, the man's condition worsened and he passed away before reaching the hospital. Given the circumstances, James and his wife were able to quickly secure the rental from the landlord. From the moment James moved in, he claimed that the house was haunted. I was skeptical when he told me about them because I had only recently met him through his brother, whom I had known for a while. However, since my fiancé was friends with James's wife, we were invited over for dinner one evening. James once again recounted his encounters, assuring me that I would witness strange phenomena. I felt like being in the audience of a magic show, where my task was to figure out the tricks behind the illusions. I anticipated James repeatedly pulling tricks, and I was prepared to expose them throughout the evening. To my surprise, the lights in the house flickered rapidly, even when no one was near the switches. I brushed it off as a faulty breaker, but James simply shrugged it off. His wife showed me a hidden cabinet near the entrance, explaining that she dreamed about its existence and later discovered it with James after she woke up in the middle of the night. I believed her account, considering her more serious demeanor, although it could have been her unconscious thought or knowledge gained during her response to the 911 call at the house. Suddenly, we heard loud footsteps coming from upstairs. I quickly rushed up to investigate, but I found no evidence of a setup or practical joke. Then, 2 doors closed on their own, leaving James baffled. He just shrugged and looked at me as if to say, "See?" Later, when I went into the kitchen alone to get a glass of water, someone had mysteriously moved my car keys from one table to another while everyone else was in the dining room. The most astonishing moment was yet to come. As we continued discussing these occurrences, I made a lighthearted remark to James, telling him that it would take much more than these experiences to convince me. I jokingly suggested that the ghost could even call us on the phone. The phone rang. James laughed and answered it, waiting to see the caller ID. I can't tell you how bewildered I felt when I saw my own phone number from my house appear on James's caller ID while I was present in his living room with my fiancé. To clarify, no one was at my house at that time.